let us see the different kinds of probability. As we see some definitions. So one is based on the intuition. So this is the general way of defining the probability. That is, we can say that probably one can marry another one. Probably some Ram married Sita. So that type of saying is probability, and this is based on the intuition of a particular person. So we use such terms. So probably something will happen. Probably I may meet you tomorrow. Okay. Probably someone may come to you tomorrow, like that. So that is based on the intuition. Actually, here this is the generalized way of saying such words. Even though the persons who do not know about the probability use such statements. Okay? Probably I may come to you tomorrow. So that is completely based on the intuition. And the probability of occurrence may be 1 or maybe 0, or it may lie in between any value. Okay? Sometimes it may not happen at all. And there is another way of defining the probability, that is based on uh, the number of outcomes and the favorable outcomes. So we perform certain experiment, we already know the meaning of random experiment. So in a particular random experiment, we have some favorable outcomes, and we know the total number of possible outcomes. So if you know these two numbers, then the ratio can be called as the probability of occurrence of a particular event. So here it is based on the favorable outcomes. And the total outcomes. Actually, this is a prior probability. So this type of probability is called as a priori probability. What do you mean by a priori? Without actually performing the experiment, we can say, if you perform this particular experiment, so these are the favorable outcomes and these are the total number of possible outcomes. Then that ratio can be called as the probability of occurrence of that particular event. So here, one difficulty with this type of definition is the outcomes of this particular experiment must be equally likely. Then only we can use this definition. As for the events that are not equally likely, we cannot use this particular definition based on the favorable outcomes and the total number of outcomes. Let us assume E is an event of a particular random experiment, and this event E occurred any number of times, and the total number of outcomes are n. Event E occurred any number of times, that is, this is the favorable outcomes, number of favorable outcomes, it is a number, and this is the total possible outcomes of that particular random experiment. Then this ratio is called as the probability of occurrence of the event E. In a particular random experiment or on a particular sample space, we defined one event and we designated that event as E. And if we let the event E occurred any number of times and the total number of outcomes are n, then the ratio Ne by n is the probability of occurrence of the event. It is a priori probability, and the difficulty, one of the difficulties, actually there are lot many difficulties, one of the difficulties of this particular definition is, this is applicable when all the outcomes are equally likely. What do you mean by equally likely? They are equally probable. The outcomes are equally probable. That is, the occurrence of all the events is same. That is, they all have the same probability. They are equally likely. Like for example, in the coin tossing experiment, the head and tail are said to be equally likely events. The outcomes are equally likely because there is a chance of getting head or tail. So let us assume we perform an experiment of throwing a coin twice. Then the possible outcomes are 4. Is it? Possible outcomes are 4. If you let E is an event, here this event is defined as at least one tail. So on this sample space, we define one event, okay, at least one tail common. So therefore, in this case, what is n value? That is the total possible outcomes is 4, and NE is, that is, in 3 different ways tail can occur. That is, at least one tail. That is, if the outcome is HT, TH or TT, so we have at least one tail. So therefore, NE is equivalent to, because there are 3 ways in which a tail can occur. So therefore, the probability of occurrence of this particular event E is equivalent to 3 by 4. So this is one example, and where we can use the definition, or where we can find. Have you performed the experiment? Have you performed the experiment now? That is without performing the experiment. Okay? That is, we are guessing. Okay? If you perform this experiment, so these are the outcomes, and we are finding the probability of occurrence of the particular event. So that's why this particular probability of occurrence of event that we calculated, this particular ratio, is a priori probability of a particular event. Understood? We have 2 different types of probability: a priori probability and post priori probability. Post priori means we perform some experiment and we observe something. After that, we find the probability of occurrence of some event. That is called the post priori probability, and this is the a priori probability. Understood? And there is another definition that is based on the relative frequency of occurrence of an event. So based on the relative frequency of occurrence of an event, we can also define the probability of occurrence of a particular event. So let us assume we perform an experiment n number of times. We perform an experiment in such a way that the number of trials are n. So out of these n number of trials, the event E occurred NE times. Are you following? See, here it is different. Here this denominator n indicates the all possible outcomes. But here this n is the number of times that we perform the experiment. N is the number of trials. N is the number of trials of the experiment, and this NE is the number of times the event E occurs. Then the ratio Ne by n when n is very, very large, that is when n is tending to infinity, is called as the probability of occurrence of event. That is the difference between this definition and this one. So here this ratio Ne by n is called as the relative frequency of occurrence of the particular event. The ratio Ne by n indicates the relative frequency of occurrence of the event E, and when n is very, very large, okay, then that particular ratio can be called as the probability of occurrence of the event. Is it clear? For example, you have thrown the coin 1000 times. You have thrown the coin 1000 times and tail occurred 500 times. Then the probability of occurrence of tails is 500 by 1000. Is it clear? But what is the difficulty of this definition? See, the first definition is it is completely based on the intuition. Okay? So here, if you use that definition to model a particular experiment, we cannot go further using mathematics, because we say something and there is no particular definition. But here we can proceed with the mathematics, but this is applicable only to the equally likely events. That is, if all the events of the experiment, all the outcomes of the experiment are equally likely or equally probable, then only we can apply this definition. And what is the difficulty with this definition? Here, in practice, it is not possible to perform infinite number of trials. Is it? Because here, the number of trials should tend to infinity. That is not possible in practice. So we can perform some 1000 trials, 10,000, or 50,000, or 1 lakh times. We can perform an experiment 1 lakh times. That is not always possible. It depends on the complexity of the experimentation. Therefore, n tending to infinity, that condition may not be satisfied in practice. So that is the one difficulty with respect to the definition of the probability. So that's why in most of the textbooks we don't use, of course we study these definitions, but the definition that we use in most of the textbooks, we see in most of these textbooks, is the axiomatic definition of the probability. Okay. Now we see what is that. Here, if you let, if this Ne is equivalent to n, Ne is equivalent to 1. That is, you perform n number of trials, and in all the trials, event E occurs. Then, what is the value of P of E? That is 1. For example, out of these n number of trials, Ne doesn't occur. That is, Ne is 0. Then, it is probability of occurrence of that particular event is 0. That is, the probability of occurrence of this particular event satisfy this inequality. So here, when P of E equivalent to 0, the event is said to be impossible event. Okay? The probability of occurrence of a particular event is 0. The concerned event is said to be impossible. The probability of occurrence of the event is equivalent to 1. That is a certain event. You remember this. One is the certain event, another is impossible event. case of certain event, the probability of occurrence of that event is 1. In case of impossible event, the probability of occurrence of that event is 0. So now we see the most important and widely used definition of the probability is based on the 3 axioms, and the particular definition is called as axiomatic definition of probability. So here we use the concepts of set theory, and some postulates have been developed by Kolmogorov. And in most of the textbooks we find this definition. Based on this definition, they proceed further for modeling the various probabilistic random experiments probabilistically. So here we have 3 axioms. So that's why the name axiomatic definition of the probability. So axiom 1 is let this S corresponds to the sample space of a particular random experiment, and E is an event of that particular random experiment. That is, we perform the experiment, we define the sample space, that is the set of all possible outcomes, and we define an event on that particular sample space. Then the probability of occurrence of the event E must be a non-negative number. So that is the first axiom. Probability of occurrence of an event must be non-negative number. Is it? And the second axiom is probability of this S is equivalent to 1. Where what is S? See, S is a set. Is it? Set of all possible outcomes. Therefore, the probability of S must be 1. Why? Because S is the certain event. S is certain event. Definitely the probability of S must be equivalent to 1. And axiom 3 is so let us see, we have 2 more events. Event A and event B are also defined on the sample space. We already know that we can define 2 power n number of events on a sample space, where small n is the number of elements of the set S. Okay, so let us assume A and B are 2 more events that we define on the same sample space. Then the probability of A or B, that is probability of A union B, is equivalent to probability of A plus probability of B. Here, this AB is equivalent to, if that condition is satisfied, the 2 events are said to be what we call disjoint or mutually exclusive. In case of 2 mutually exclusive events, the probability of A union B is equivalent to probability of A plus probability of B. So this can also be extended to n number of events, n number of mutually exclusive events. So how can you do? Let us assume this is the union of n number of mutually exclusive events. Then the probability of occurrence of this particular event is equivalent to how much? Sigma I equivalent to 1 to n probability of AI, provided that AI intersection some Aj equivalent to pi when I is not equivalent to So that is, this is based on the induction. Mathematical induction. As we can write, see, this is extended, nothing is there. Axiom 3 is extended to, that can be applicable to any number of events. First we written it for 2 events, then we extend it for n number of events. So these are the 3 axioms, and based on these 3 axioms, we can develop some more axioms, or we can develop some rules or theorems of the probability. Follow this. So let us do one thing. We take simple example and check whether all these axioms are satisfied or not. Again, let us say take the same experiment of throwing the coin twice. A pair coin is tossed twice, and these are the possible outcomes. So if you define an event, let us define event E is same as that of the previous one, that is at least one edge, then the probability of E is how much? Again it is 3 by 2. So obviously this value is greater than or equivalent to 0. Is it? Therefore, the probability of occurrence of the event that defined on the sample space S is satisfying the axiom 1. So let us see what is the probability of S in this case. See, the probability of HH is how much? 1 by 4, which is equivalent to probability of HT, probability of TH, and TT also. Is it right? So therefore, what is the probability of S? Probability of S is probability of this plus probability of this plus probability of this, which is equivalent to 1. So this second axiom is also satisfied, and the third axiom is also satisfied. Why? Because all these 3 events are, all these 4 events are mutually exclusive. See, HH is one event, is it right? HT is another event, TH is another event, TT is another event. Like that, how many events we can define? 2 for 4 events. 2 for 4. How much? 16. 16 events can be defined on the sample space S. So here, these events, that is HH, HT, TH and TT are mutually exclusive. And what is the probability of HH or HT? Probability of HH or HT. That is the probability of HH union HT is equivalent to probability of HH plus probability of HT. Now don't tell the value. So probability of HH or HT is equivalent to probability of HH plus probability of HT. You tell what this value. How much you got? 1 by 2. So which is equivalent to probability of HH plus probability of HT. So axiom 3 is also satisfied. Why? Because HH and HT are mutually exclusive. If HH is occurred, HT will not occur. So we can verify. That is, when you perform an experiment, we can define the events on the sample space of that particular experiment, Once you have the events, once you define the events, we can find the probability of occurrence of those events. And the probability of occurrence of the events that defined on the sample space satisfy the three axioms that we studied. So this type of definition of the probability is called as axiomatic definition of probability. We see some theorems on probability. Actually, these are not theorems. We can say that axioms, the extension of those three axioms. That is based on those three axioms that we studied, we can develop some more axioms. Let A1 and A2 are two events defined on a sample space of a particular random experiment. So if A1 is the subset of A2, then the probability of A1 is less than or equivalent to probability of A2. So this is you can prove it. Try it use the Venn diagram and try to prove this. Or you may follow any other procedure. And the probability of S prime is equivalent to probability of, okay, instead of writing S, I do one thing. Okay, some arbitrary event. That A is an event, A prime is the complement of that event, is equivalent to 1 minus probability of A. So from this, can we say that probability of phi equivalent to 0? Because probability of phi is equivalent to 1 minus probability of S, okay, which is equivalent to 1 minus 1, 0. If A1 and A2 are NA2 events, then the probability of A1 union A2 is equivalent to probability of A1 plus probability of A2 minus so when A1 and A2 are disjoint, then this will be equivalent to probability of A1 plus probability of, and like this we can define number of rules, okay, based on the three axes. You try to prove this. I'll give hint. So this A1 union A2 can be written as A1 A2 prime union A1 prime A2 union A1 A. Is it right? A1 union A2 can be written like this. You can verify it. Use the Venn diagram, draw the Venn diagram and verify it. Then take the probability on both sides. Here A1 A2 prime, A1 prime A2, A1 A2 are disjoint events. Then you can easily prove that the probability of A1 A2 is equivalent to probability of A1 plus probability of A2 minus probability of A1 intersection A. Do it later. And we try to look at one more definition. So joint probability. Let A1 and A2, or otherwise I'll do one thing. I take A and B. A, B are any two events defined on a particular sample space. Then this A intersection B. So this is a set. Is it? A intersection B is a set, and that can be represented as E. So here this E is called as the joint event. That is A and B. So now we can find the probability of occurrence of A and B. So for that purpose, let us assume we perform n number of trials of a particular experiment, out of which the joint event, what is the joint event here? A and B occurred NAB times. Then this ratio NAB upon n, when n tends to infinity, is called as the joint probability of occurrence of the A and B. And this is denoted as probability of A and. So in this case we are designating A and B as E, so therefore the probability of the joint event, E is the joint event, the probability of the joint event is NAB by n. So this particular quantity is called as the joint probability, that is the occurrence of event A and B, maybe in the same order. Can I write this probability of A intersection B as probability of A plus probability of B minus probability of A union B? Is it correct? From this, that is, the joint probability can also be obtained from probability of A, probability of B, and probability of A or B. Now let us consider this ratio NAB by NA. What that indicates? NAB is the number of times the joint event AB occurs. NA indicates number of times event A occurs. So this ratio, actually we know the occurrence of joint event and we know the occurrence of a particular event A. If you know these two numbers, we can find one more probability, that is the probability of occurrence of another event. What is the another event here? Another event is the B. That is, we can find the probability of occurrence of the event B, given that event A has been occurred. So here we designate that as this. When limit n tends to infinity, that is, we are performing more number of trials, out of which the joint event AB occurred NAB times and event A occurred NA times. If you know these two quantities, we can find the occurrence of the other event. The other event is B here. So here, this particular quantity, that is the probability of B, given that A has been occurred, is called as the conditional probability of occurrence of event B. Why? Because we are conditioning the occurrence of B on the event A. That is, the probability of occurrence of event B is depending on the probability of occurrence of event A. So here, can I write this as NAB by N, NA by N? Is it right? So what is the above? Above ratio is the joint probability So here P of A must not be 0. So this is very important for us. See, all these definitions are very important because in the later classes, while studying about the random variables, we extend the same concepts. So what we call this particular probability? This is the conditional probability. And here we have the probability of occurrence of event B. See, we read this as the probability of occurrence of event B given that A has been occurred. I write here probability of occurrence of B given that event A has been occurred. We read like that. So this is equivalent to probability of A intersection B So here probability of A must not be 0. Why? Because event A has been occurred. Definitely the P of A must be greater than some value must be. Not greater than or equivalent to 0. It should be greater than 0. It should not be 0. If it is 0, what is happening? It is becoming infinity. But the probability of a particular event must not exceed 1. It should not be infinity. That's why this condition must be satisfied. In the same way, can I write this? Probability of occurrence of A in terms of the joint probability So here, this is the joint probability. And what is this quantity? This is called the probability of occurrence of the event A. Normally it is called as the elementary probability. Elementary probability or simply probability. That is, if you know the joint probability of two events and the elementary probability of one event, you can find the probability of occurrence of other event. Okay. So that is the conditional probability. Especially this conditional probability is very important. If you want to perform some experiment on the life cycle of the person, okay. So there we use the conditioning, or we use this conditional probability. So while studying the random variables and the density functions, we see what is the meaning of conditioning. Okay. Now from these two equations, can I write probability of B given A into probability of A is equivalent to probability of A, is it right? From the above two equations. This implies probability of event A as probability AB, and this is B. Here we write. Similarly, you can write the probability of B. Now here, this particular relation is very important. I think you might have studied this. This is the so-called Bayes theorem or Bayes law. See here, we have two elementary probabilities and two conditional probabilities. That is, if you know the conditional probability and one elementary probability, you can find the other elementary probability. Is it clear to you? Now consider probability of A given B. So let us assume the occurrence of A is not depending on the occurrence of B. Then what will be the value of this? See here, the occurrence of event A is depending on the occurrence of event B. If the probability of occurrence of event E is not depending on the occurrence of B, then this value will be equivalent to probability of A. Why? Because the probability of occurrence of A is not depending on the probability of occurrence of B. Definitely, the conditional probability of A given B is equivalent to probability of A. So if this condition is satisfied, from this we can write the probability of A intersection B is equivalent to probability of A into probability of B. So if this condition is satisfied, the two events are said to be statistically independent events. Understood? When two events A and B are statistically independent, and the probability of A intersection B is equivalent to probability of A into probability of B. So for that, this condition must be satisfied. So we will continue in the next class.